Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Finweek. This Money Matters. Remember, this is the show that helps you manage your finances. I'm Demisha Greater. Coming up on the show today, we'll be putting the spotlight on the country's electricity crisis and how to better prepare yourself for that. We'll also take a look at one of the most useful apps that will gear you up for load shedding. And then we'll be shifting gears a little and looking at the outlook for Mediclinic. Then we'll shift back with a panel of experts who will be in studio with us, and they'll be able to advise us on the renewable energy alternatives and to get you off the Eskom grid. But before we delve into all of that, do remember that we welcome your comments. So please email us, give us feedback to moneymatters@abn360.com. But first, let's take a look at the trend of the week. There are a number of apps that are available to view one's load shedding schedule, but they can be complicated to use. Simplifying the complex load shedding schedules to make it easy for people to know when they will be affected is what led app developers Dan Wells and Herman Maritz to create their load shedding app. Now today, Eskomsepush have been installed by more than 126,000 users. Joining us from our studios in Cape Town today is Dan Wells, the co-founder of Eskomsepush. Dan, thanks for your time. As we mentioned, it is a little bit complicated sometimes to figure out what to do, where and how. So tell us, how does Eskomsepush work?
Basically, good afternoon. Basically, what our users want to know is, when will I be affected by load shedding? Looking at the schedules online, there's various different ways to find this information. So you can look on the Eskom website to see what stage it is. You can look on the municipality websites to see when you might be affected. But it's very difficult to memorize these. So we created an app to help the users and the power users in South Africa to find out their load shedding status. Once you've installed the application, you can search for your area, you can search for your home area and your work area, let's say, and then quickly you can find out when you will be affected by load shedding. You can check the schedules for, today, the next day and the following day as well.
Dan, where do you get the information from? Because often I've been online trying to find out where my area is and to see that this information was in fact reliable. So where do you get your stats from? Do you go through Eskom? And how correct are you in terms of the information that you give out on this app?
So far we've been incredibly reliable. In terms of all the schedules that are published, we find, well, let me say that again. We use a number of different sources. So we use the Eskom's website, we use the municipalities' websites as well, and then we've also, instead of capturing that data and typing it and putting it into a database so that you can use it, we either do an automatic lookup, which you can look up, or we capture that information and then you can look it up from there. We also have a number of sort of proprietary methods to looking into the status of the grid, and that's just the nature of some of our friends, which are electrical engineers.
Dan, we've seen a couple of these apps popping up, and of course load shedding becoming more of a regular occurrence has led to that. But tell us about the challenges. How do you stay competitive and make sure that you're able to deliver on this product, and how much does it cost?
So we started this app as it's something that we just did in our free time. We saw that there weren't any applications when we started for this, and load shedding schedules are hard. So we wanted to simplify that and spread it out. So we just started, Herman and I, we decided one weekend to push this out, and we quickly got some users. From that we've extended it out, and we've actually developed a bit of a brand around this. And that keeps our users excited, and that differentiates us from our other users. We've got a bit of a warmth with our application compared to some of the other ones, and we want to make our users smile. Load shedding it's a difficult time that we're all in, but we want to make sure that our users smile and keep them informed along the way.
So in terms of cost, is this going to be free?
Yes, we'll always keep the application for free. At the moment, we don't have any adverts, and we're not actually making any revenue from this application. We're looking at some other models to go ahead in future and possibly launching some other app ideas that we have using the Eskomsepush app.
Let's explore some of those. What do you have lined up in the pipeline?
Some of those ideas are I guess, confidential, and we're actually in discussions with some other people about that. But we do have some ideas that we want to put into the Eskomsepush app, and those are some that we're working on at the moment. And that will be looking up the area that you're in currently using GPS coordinates, because most smartphones have GPS these days. Another would be
yeah, well,
my mind has gone blank.
Not to worry. There was actually another question that I wanted to know. Firstly, Eskomsepush, you have to tell us about the rationale behind that name. And secondly, broadband, is that an issue? Or are you finding that people aren't complaining about being able to get to your app? You know, how dependent are you on making sure that you do have internet accessibility?
Firstly, about the name, it was a bit of fun, and it's definitely not rude. It's an interesting name, and it's an interesting talking point. So it's push notifications for Eskom's schedules. So we decided, we were going through a bunch of different names, and we decided that would be the easiest to go with. It's a bit of fun. It's people love talking about it. People often mention like, "Oh, did you get the push today?" And they can go and then look at their schedules. Now, on to your second question with the broadband. Actually, no, we haven't had any problems. Lots of users have mentioned that initially the app has been quite slow, but that's just because when we first started this application, we didn't realize we'd have the astronomical growth that we have actually had. So we've grown quickly over the last 6 weeks from 1,000 users to now, it's I think 136,000 from this morning. We weren't prepared. So every day we're actually changing, we're trying to make this faster and quicker for everyone to use. But in terms of broadband and data usage, our app uses hardly anything. And that's one of the reasons why we haven't put adverts in the application either. Those adverts actually use your data. It's an additional cost and overhead.
Dan, thanks so much for that. Best of luck with Eskomsepush. I look forward to seeing what else you're going to come up with. That was Dan Wells. He's the co-founder of Eskomsepush. Let's now take a look at the trend of the week. That was the trend. This is the punt. Private hospital group Mediclinic International has flourished in recent years and now has a big international footprint that accounts for about 70% of its profit. Despite its growing profits by 26% in the year to end March, the Mediclinic share price is down about 22% from its April highs. But joining us in our Cape Town studios too to discuss the outlook for Mediclinic International is our Finweek contributor, that's Moxima Gama. Moxima, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Let's just start off by looking at Mediclinic. Revenue and profits have been moving to the upside, but of late we've seen the share price movement going in a different direction.
Yeah, this is, you know, if we look at it if we had to break it down and look at the fundamental part, it's because they generally reported earnings that were less than anticipated. The growth was a bit down. It was 9% as compared to the 46% last year. So you could understand why there was a bit of a drop. And if we look at it technically, it was just part of the correction. So it was a product of it falling from what it had done previously. So it comes as no surprise. But funny enough, this correction does give off a nice buying opportunity. If you look at the chart now, there's a bit of a falling wedge pattern that's forming there, and the buying level will be around 112. So it's tested a key support. It just needs to bounce on it. When I looked at it before I left, it was looking a bit edgy, but at least that oversold RSI could just you know, makes recovery a bit imminent. So we just need to look out for it in the near future.
How big of a contribution to the positivity and the positive sentiment around Mediclinic is the management team?
Look, the management team, when it's good, then it's able to produce good results, sustainable growth, and most importantly, reputation, because South Africans do want to go to a reputable hospital or private hospital in the event of getting sick. So it's quite a good backing up system when they have that, and they've I mean, for the past 2 decades they've done pretty well, which explains, and you can see it on their price, on their share price. So this is merely a correction from an overextended position.
Let's look at the healthcare sector as a whole, and then we'll make the comparison with Mediclinic and how it fares. What are some of the key things that you are concerned about, or how do you view this particular sector?
Look, you need to understand that healthcare services will always be in demand. It's a fear factor and risk as well. People want to protect themselves from that. So they will always withstand the rainy weather in any economic times. So this pullback was surely on being overextended. I'm not quite a fan of the sector this year. I would actually move from overweight to neutral, but I somehow see a bit of upside with Mediclinic because it has gone through a bit of a beating of coming off very high levels. So this could be an opportunity, yet with the other shares, if you could see on the charts, they are taking a bit of a beating, which comes as no surprise. They were overextended and they should correct further. So if, with Mediclinic looking like the correction might be coming to an end, it makes an excellent switching opportunity out of Netcare and life healthcare into Mediclinic.
Moxima, just finally, what are maybe some of the factors that could change the course of Mediclinic's share price movement? So you said it's poised for a correction. What could cause it to go a different direction here?
Look, if it just really fails to go above that 112 level and starts going below 96, then obviously my call would be negated. But like I said, my solace is that extremely oversold RSI, and once it does recover and show a bit of upside momentum, I really think it could pull through to around those 162 levels, which is a decent 45% gain. This would be a medium-term call, so it would be within 6 months to a year.
Moxima, thanks so much, as always, for your valuable contribution. That was the Finweek contributor, Moxima Gama. Up next, we unpack this week's cover story. Load shedding. Now that's something that has affected us all South Africans, and that will be for some time to come, will be part of our daily lives. But now I'm joined by Finweek journalist Lameez Omarjee to look at some of the electricity issues that she's covered in the latest edition of Finweek. Lameez, thanks for your time. Just tell us, we know it's bad, but just how bad is the situation here in South Africa?
I think one of the themes that have come through is that load shedding has economic consequences. It's not just a matter of people sitting at home and being in the dark. And one of the things that has come up is that there is a possibility of a national blackout, so much so that the city of Cape Town has set aside 245 million rand in the case of a blackout.
Oh, okay. Blackout, I don't know if you were able to backtrack because I went to a press briefing and I remember them saying you need to understand the difference between load shedding and a blackout. So maybe just take us back. A blackout meaning completely there's no way we would have any sort of electricity anywhere in South Africa, if I'm correct. And also, how are people most likely to react to this? Okay, so in blackout, well, analysts say that the country won't necessarily be thrown into chaos, because think about it, businesses will still have their generators to power, but the problem comes in when we run out of fuel to power the generators, and that's when we could have civil riots, because it'll impact things like banking. You won't be able to draw money. True. You won't even have water supply. So that's what we're worried about. Would you say, or speaking to analysts, have they said that there is still worse to come, or have we pretty much reached the bottom here? I know they've said a national blackout, but what are you seeing the split in terms of sentiment on the ground? The bigger picture is that we are running out of coal, and the coal production is reducing 10% monthly, and they predict by the end of the year that we might have a deficit. So I think bigger picture, we need to look at alternative sources of energy, and that would probably be the worst. Renewable sources of energy, is this what they're saying could save us? Like solar power and wind, those are helpful, but they're not the solution, because renewable energy sources only produce electricity 30% of the time. At the end of the day, fossil fuels are the only sources that work. So. Lameez, thanks so much for giving us that update, and later on I know we'll be looking at that more in depth. That was Finweek journalist Lameez Omarjee. We're taking a very short break, but when we come back I'll have a panel of experts in studio with me. They'll be advising on what Lameez and I have just been talking about, renewable energy alternatives, and how you can get off the Eskom grid, and is that viable? Stay with us.